Hello there, and welcome back. This is Think Local First Radio here on Santa Cruz Voice, and I'm your host, Susan O'Connor-Fraser, with my co-host,
Tam O'Connor-Fraser.
And, you know, every week we like to profile businesses and nonprofit organizations that are here in Santa Cruz County and kind of in the counties beyond. And we love to do a priority for our Think Local First members, of which one of them we have in our studio today. And that is Jenna Gallant from Treehouse Dispensary. Hi, Jenna.
Hi, Susan. Hi, Tam. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here.
Yeah.
Lots of things we want to ask you.
He has a list, I guess. So first, let me hear about you. Tell me what Jenna's journey has been before she got to Treehouse.
Well, I'm originally from the East Coast. I lived most of my adulthood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as an art educator. And I've been in Santa Cruz for a little under 10 years now. I'm really passionate about community, so sort of every job I've had has had to do with uplifting art community, social justice, sort of trying to help people that are in need in whatever realm that may be. So prior to Treehouse in Santa Cruz, I worked with Project Homeless Connect and applied survey research to do the point-in-time counts and kind of work with the people experiencing homelessness in this county to try to get them resources. So that sort of translated into what I do now, which is being creative director of Treehouse Dispensary, where, yes, we do sell cannabis, but we also do a ton of community work, both locally and statewide and nationally. And it's also an art gallery, so I run the art gallery as well.
Wow.
So tell me about Treehouse. How long has it been around?
Yeah, so Treehouse is a locally owned dispensary. We opened as soon as Prop 64 passed and became effective, which was January of 2018. So we've been operating in our location since then, which is over on Soquel Avenue. And we've kind of been just evolving as a business and trying to help more people as the years have gone on.
And so let's talk a little bit. I mean, I think that there's some people in our community that, which I find interesting, is that they're kind of anti-cannabis dispensary. I mean, what are some of the challenges you guys face in running a dispensary?
Yeah, I think that is not an uncommon view. So that in itself is a challenge, right? I mean, I think it's surprising for a girl from the East Coast where, you know, cannabis is newly medically available, to hear that a place that I associate with cannabis, which is Santa Cruz, can be very anti. I think Treehouse's primary mission over the last few years has been to educate the community. I think that, you know, the legality of cannabis and cannabis in general is a very divisive issue, and there's a lot of propaganda kind of surrounding it that stems from the war on drugs, you know, which is something that's been going on for over 50 years.
Reefer madness.
Exactly.
Yep, that's how we grew up.
Exactly. So, you know, it's definitely a tricky thing to navigate as a dispensary, but everybody that comes into Treehouse is met with staff that is highly educated on cannabis science and the research that has continuously been happening. We work really hard to make sure our staff is prepared to have those conversations with people who are maybe a little more skeptical and kind of help them find something that's going to work for them, because at the end of the day, our goal with cannabis is to help people and alleviate their pain, whether that be from arthritis or, you know, cancer patients or somebody that's just needs to, you know, their muscles are sore, something like that. So
I think it'd be really interesting for those that are think that that a dispensary brings in the riffraff is to go if you do nothing else, go sit in the parking lot and watch the people that come out of their cars and go in. Because yes, there's a few that maybe look like hippies, you know, but you know, there's a lot of people, well, I should say my age, but that are going in for medical purposes, even though you don't need a medical ID anymore for it, but that are, you know, getting their cannabis to either sleep or to relieve pain or other things like that. So it's just that would be the first step, is to go look and see that's not just the riffraff. You might see your neighbor coming out.
Absolutely. As a dispensary focused on wellness, our primary customer is usually between the ages of 45 and 75.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. That's an interesting statistic. Now, the other thing I think people would be that have not been in a dispensary and are not familiar with the industry is the range of products and the way that you can get, whether it's for recreation or for medicine, the way that you can get your cannabis. So talk a little bit about that range.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you think about cannabis, you think about somebody smoking a joint, right? Which we certainly have that. And you can buy flower in all different sorts of sizes and, pre-rolled for you or in a jar. But we really have a ton of different products that range from edibles of all different kinds, whether you want a gummy or a cookie or, maybe you're vegan. We have vegan gummies, or you're gluten-free. We have edibles that are gluten-free as well. And then we also have topicals and tinctures and, a lot of different products that are really not intended to, quote unquote, get you high, but to tackle pain that you might have. We also have a lot of sleep products as well, which ranges from those edibles to a tincture to, a vape, something like that. That's really just targeting the fact that you can't sleep at night and you don't want to take, prescription medication for that.
Right. I mean, I'm going to sign up. I take a CBD in the morning. I have a very moderate to moderate arthritis, but because of the medication, I feel no pain all day. I don't get high, because it's even, it has a tiny bit of THC in it, a 20-to-1 ratio or something like that. But it doesn't get you high, but it does take care of my pain all day long.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, a good way to think about it is it's binding to a lot of the same receptors that like pain medication does, but it's doing it in a non-habit forming way and in a way that doesn't necessarily have that negative effect on your kidneys or your liver like a lot of medication can.
And the same thing with sleep medication is being able to, I know people that are on Ambien and have been on Ambien forever because that's, the only way they can get to sleep at night, or they drink in order to go to sleep at night. Chewing a gummy. You don't have to smoke. You don't have to get that in your lungs if that's concerning you. You can just chew a gummy and, 30 minutes or however long it takes, you're ready to fall off to sleep.
Yeah, you might wake up with a bit of a dry mouth, but
that does happen.
That does happen.
So, so you guys says you've been around since 2018 and all that time in that same location.
Yes, correct.
So what if someone's new and they say, okay, I might want to try this and check things out. Walk me into, the Treehouse experience.
Yeah, so we have a couple different options, but for new folks, I definitely recommend they come inside of the shop. The other option we have is a drive-through. We have one of the only legal one in the county, certainly, and it's, I think, one of 3 in the state at this point, where you can place an order online and drive up to a window in the side of our building and pick it up. But if you're a new member, definitely park in our parking lot, come in and see the space inside, because, I mean, not only is it a space of education, but the intention is to have it be a comforting and enjoyable space. So there's tons of, house plants and lots of art from local artists. And all of the products are laid out on the sales floor for our staff to kind of walk you through and guide you through that experience. So it's a place where you can come ask any questions you have, and our highly educated staff is there to help you find what is going to work best for you, and educate you on any, answer any questions you might have.
Now, I know that when I first got my medical ID back, years ago, obviously, so that I could take care of some of the things that I had prior been treating with Western medication of some kind. People didn't really. I felt a little lost when I went in and it wasn't your dispensary. It was unnamed dispensary, but I just felt like it was, what do you want? And
Right.
Even if you described what you were looking for or what situation that you were treating, you didn't necessarily get that kind of knowledge back. And so I felt I was really alone in trying to figure it out.
Absolutely. And honestly, I felt that way before I worked at Treehouse when I went to other dispensaries here. It was like if you don't know, like it made me feel kind of stupid almost, So now being part of Treehouse, that's been a major focus for me and for us. We spend an inordinate amount of time educating our staff, which is not very common practice in the industry. It's an industry that is retail essentially at its core, and you have a lot of turnover in staff in retail. But since I've been there the last 4 years, our longest employee there has been there for 4 years as well, and our newest is 6 months, which is pretty unheard of in the industry.
That's pretty good.
So that means that our staff has been trained over the years to know all of the cannabis science that's available, as well as study the brands that we carry, and really just have this great base for understanding of what sorts of ailments people are going to come in for. So if anybody wants to have a conversation, we are there to have that conversation with you. It's by no means required. If you don't want to talk to us, that's okay too. We'll still, help you build your order and get you what you need. But it's a newly accepted industry. So the amount of information that has come out over the last 4 or 5 years is huge. And there's a lot of information out there, but if you don't want to do the research yourself, we're there to have that conversation and help you.
I think one of the things that's interesting, if we think back in the day when some of us may have been smoking pot illegally, but we won't mention any names.
I can't imagine who that might have been.
There were, you didn't really know at all what you were getting,
Totally.
Versus today there's sativa, there's indica, there's hybrids, and so, if you're looking for something that's going to give you more energy, you might go the sativa route, something that's a little more laid back, an indica route. So there's a lot of information that was not available at 40 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like the technology has really stepped up in the cannabis industry in many ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is incredibly regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very safe. You know exactly what you're getting. Labeling requirements are really specific. Testing requirements are really specific. So every single product that's in a dispensary has been rigorously tested by state-sanctioned labs.
Has it become maybe overly regulated?
Some might think so.
Question. Yes, I think it's definitely challenging with the regulations that we have. I absolutely understand why they're that way, but I think, that's a large conversation that could potentially get political.
Well, we wouldn't want to do that now.
I think one of the other things that's kind of interesting that early on during, before it was legal for recreational use, that it was sometimes hard to get a product that I could get consistently, because it just, and I don't know quite what that was, but I'd go in looking for a particular, manufacturer or, product, and they say they were out, and it still happens once in a while, but not as often as it did.
Yeah, there was a big transition from medical days, which was Proposition 215, to Proposition 64, which is the recreational bill that passed, and kind of where we're at now, where everything has to be prepackaged now, whereas it didn't prior to 2018. So, shelf life has to be considered in a way that it wasn't previously, and growers had a lot more freedom, honestly, before recreational days to kind of experiment with different cultivars and grow different things, or edible companies making different things, whereas now they have to go through a lot of testing and a large process to get things onto the shelf.
Yeah, I recall when that transition happened, because I remember going to one shop and all of a sudden it was, packaging was pretty decent, and then it became ridiculous in terms of how to get into the the flower.
We actually have a caller. We have a caller on the line. Michael wants to know, why do they call it Treehouse? So let's see if we can hear from Michael. Michael, you there?
Yes, I am, and thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to know why they call it Treehouse. I find the name very fascinating. Having, been a veteran of tree houses in my youth, but I was curious why you call it Treehouse.
Yeah, that's a great question. Ownership, when they decided to name it, they were kind of thinking back to tree houses of their youth, but the intention is to kind of make an adult treehouse, where a community space where people feel comfortable hanging out, and it's a place for creativity, it's a place for gathering, it's a place for learning.
That's a great name, by the way. I had the opportunity to stop by one of your First Friday events, and would recommend it as a great place to get to know Treehouse, because you can walk in and there's a lot of people with art and crafts and music and food, and so you can kind of hide out and still learn what you need to learn from those people who know. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity to get to know Treehouse and mix and mingle as well. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, I appreciate the shout out.
So if you come to a First Friday event, which I would have assumed would have been last Friday, do you have to be all signed up and registered at that point?
No, so the only requirement for attending a First Friday is that you're 21 years or older. That's the state regulation. So inside of the building, you can purchase cannabis if you want, but really it's set up like a maker's market. So we have cannabis vendors there with education, so you can talk to them about their different brands and what products they have available. And then we'll have about 20 to 30 different artists and makers that have their tables, and it's a good place for them to meet each other, but it's also a great place to buy gifts for your loved ones, or talk to them about commissioning a piece, or just kind of mingle and see what's out there. We have a live musician that will play as well, and sometimes we do have activists that come and table and talk about their organizations too. So it happens every month, and it is 5 to 8 p.m.
on the First Friday. Michael's left the building, definitely thank you for calling. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. This is Susan O'Connor Frazier here on Think Local First Radio, and we're going to hear from our sponsors.
When your business is on the move, you must find the right place for it to move. Let's ask Matt Shelton, General Manager of J.R. Parish, the big question. What is the right place to move one's business?
Location, location, location. Sometimes it's rent. Sometimes it's the fact that there aren't that many buildings available to suit you. But mostly it's location of your customers, location of the principals, location of your employees.
Move it to the right place with the help of the power brokers at J.R. Parish in Santa Cruz.
Well, I suppose you're not surprised. People have been asking me, what's the big deal with these pharmacy ads? Well, between diabetes testing and stroke and blood pressure medications, the pharmacy used to love me. I can see why some folks struggle between prescriptions, eating, and paying the bills. With monthlyfeerx.com, I pay one small monthly fee for all of my meds, and that includes the diabetes kits. If you pay more than $20 a month, check out monthlyfeerx.com. If your family spends more than $30 a month, even if you're a family of 8, 9, 10, 12, check out monthlyfeerx.com. Believe me, it's a game changer. Thanks to monthlyfeerx.com, I now have the extra money to go out and do fun things. monthlyfeerx.com. And did I mention that your meds get delivered discreetly to your mailbox?
You never get a second chance to make a good first impression. When you want to make a good first impression, start with Dynamic Press Angelo.
Dynamic Press can take care of every printing need, from business cards to stationery, apparel, mailings, brochures, everything but money.
When you want to make a good first impression, start with Dynamic Press in Santa Cruz.
479-7920. DynamicPress.com.
Hello, and welcome back to Think Local First Radio here on Santa Cruz Voice. This is Susan O'Connor-Fraser. She's in the studio with her co-host,
Tam O'Connor-Fraser.
Tam O'Connor-Fraser. And we are really fortunate to be talking to Janet Gallant from Treehouse Dispensary. And you mentioned your First Friday event, and that you have lots of artists that attend that. But you have artists there all the time, right?
Yes, that is correct. We do an artist residency program that we've been doing, since we've been open. So for the last, 5.5 years?
Yeah.
5 years? 6 years? Yeah, a while.
Something like that. I haven't had breakfast or lunch today, so math is not in the part of my repertoire.
So yeah, our artist residency program is really great. We have 4 separate walls in the shop that we dedicate to that program, and every 3 months we see 4 new local artists who are able to install their work on the walls. And we do sell it for them if they like, but it's not required. Our goal is to just give them exposure, kind of use our social media platform and our website to get their names, and whether they have businesses or they do commissions or they're part of open studios, get their information out there. So we really focus on featuring artists that don't necessarily have a platform.
Right.
They might be younger, they might be just getting started, or they might have been making art for years. They just haven't done a lot of promotion, and just really trying to expose our community to all of the wonderful artists that are in this county.
So how, if I'm an artist, how would I go about maybe being considered for one of your walls?
So on our website, ourtreehouse.io, there's an artist page, and at the bottom of that page, there's a form you can fill out to kind of apply for it. It's a very simple questionnaire, and it goes directly to me, and I'm the one who reaches out to the artists. Or you can message us on our Instagram as well.
So you said that how often does the exhibit rotate?
Every 3 months.
Okay.
So we see 12 artists a year. No,
Okay.
16 artists a year.
And then you put them up on your website too, right? In terms of that you
Yes.
can actually purchase the art.
Yeah, so it's a little tricky to be able to purchase it through the internet, but you can do it at the shop. And when you purchase the artwork, it comes home with you that day.
So tell me about some of the artists, if you want, that's up now.
Sure, yeah. The 4 artists we have up, vary from mosaic making from Beth Purcell to photos from Sean Balto. And then we have a painter, Elliot Bliss. And then on the 4th wall, we have Melody Del Rio, who's also a painter, but very different styles. So it's folks of all ages, genders, races. It's really just to get a good cross-section of our very diverse community.
Yeah, I'm looking at Sean's page right now, and it looks like it's interesting. Some really interesting, photographs that he's done. Is he a younger photographer?
Yeah, so he's in his early 20s, and he's from Watsonville. So
Okay.
he's traveled the state and the country and the world to take photos.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. So do you get anybody that's recognizable, or pretty much they're all kind of up and coming?
Sometimes they're recognizable. Beth Purcell, for example, she's the person who has mosaics on the wall right now, and she's pretty recognizable, at least in the county. She's been doing open studios and making art here for a very long time. So, nobody necessarily famous, but famous to us.
Her stuff is beautiful. Absolutely. It's just really great. And so are we in the 2nd month of the current display?
Yes. So those artists also participate in First Fridays, so you can come meet them on the First Fridays for the 3 that their work is up. And then we'll have a switch out with the artists in residence on our April First Friday. So that will be their opening.
Okay. All right. So
Beth's work, is pretty beautiful stuff she does.
So you had some questions that you thought I was going to take away from you.
Oh, well, it depends.
You can go back to product.
Well, first off, I guess one of my questions that I've been curious about is there a difference in pricing for medicinal versus recreational?
That's a good question. So Not at the base level, right? So Treehouse, we do offer a discount for medical patients just to kind of help with that. We also offer discounts for teachers and educators, students, obviously over 21, and then veterans as well.
But that's because that's what you're offering.
That's what we do.
But the
yes.
state doesn't allow that to happen.
The only thing that the state supports is if you have a state medical card, which is specifically from the state of California, you get like local taxes and state taxes waived.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's reasonable because the tax is.
You do still have to pay cannabis excise tax, which is the big fee.
Oh, is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious
You
about
save
that.
the 9%.
Jeez.
It does seem like that there's a lot of stuff that gets added on, but a lot of that stuff goes right back into the community, right?
The tax-wise?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm necessarily educated enough to speak to where the taxes go. I just do know that we pay a large amount of tax, both every day on every sale and then at the end of the year too. So it is definitely a barrier for being a locally owned business. A lot of the dispensaries in this county and in the state, just because of financial hardship from taxation and other fees, are going towards corporate backing. So there's 22 dispensaries, I believe that's the number now in the county, and less than half are locally owned.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's like a big pharma thing, kind of like having to, you have to have the big corporation behind it to be able to get through all the regulations and the taxes and everything.
Which seems counterproductive since
Absolutely.
when you think of cannabis, it's such like a grounded, it's a plant.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, or has been part of the problem for years, right? It's because it's a plant and it grows readily, easily, and
It's a weed.
It's a weed.
So what? Okay, so how about in looking at, because one of the challenges I know that, or I think, is banking is a challenge for dispensaries, is because the banking is a federal system and cannabis is still federally considered a class 1 or something, some kind of controlled substance, which to those of us that, that rely on cannabis for their, pain relief seems crazy that's that, and certainly doesn't feel like you're doing some kind of a narcotic, in any way, shape, or form. How do you guys deal with, because people don't carry cash as much as they used to.
Right.
So how can I pay for my cannabis if I came in?
Cash is always king, because there are a lot of challenges that have to do with, it not being federally legal and, certain organizations, banks or what have you that don't support that. Different card carriers won't allow you to use your card in cannabis locations. So we do have an ATM on site, which is very helpful. And then we most of the time can take credit cards for a fee, but it's through a third-party system. So I would say the best course of action is always to get cash out before you come. But we have a couple of different ways that most of the time will work.
Right. Okay.
Politically, what's the status of the cannabis lobby for Congress? Because that's where it needs to, if on a federal level, it's got to get changed. And it just seems like there's maybe not a strong enough lobby.
Yes, I think, again, I think it's a really complicated question, especially federally. The thing that we focus on at Treehouse is kind of how to combat the effects of the current policy. And we do that through advocacy and also fundraising for organizations that are doing what you're talking about, like advocating for policy change at a federal level and also a state level, having to do with taxes and other things.
Right.
But the main issue with that is that there are, thousands of people that are still in prison for, honestly, what I personally would consider a very minor offense or for nonviolent cannabis crimes.
Right.
So that should, if we're going to pass something federally, that should be the first consideration.
Yeah, for sure.
We support this great organization called the Last Prisoner Project. And we've been working with them since August of 2020. And, as a small business, we don't have a lot to donate. And as a cannabis business, you don't get any tax breaks ever from donating. But purely from fundraising with our community and the brands we work with, we've been able to donate over $30,000 to that cause, which is just, it's huge. I mean, that goes towards, helping to pay lawyers to do work to get people out of prison for nonviolent cannabis crimes that are here in California and in the whole country.
Do you think with more and more countries or states rather either legalizing it for medical purposes or to taking the next step for recreational purposes? I mean, where do you see on the horizon that potentially national legislation could change?
It's hard to say. I think, my personal opinion is that nobody should be in prison for cannabis,
right?
Nonviolent cannabis crime. And I think that cannabis has so many benefits where it can help people in ways that pharmaceuticals can't, or without the side effects of pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And I think a priority should be freeing prisoners and also getting access to people who need that medicine. As for how to achieve that in our very complex and complicated various state governments as well as federal government, I don't even know where to start.
Right. Yeah, I think that someone that is anti-cannabis should Google. I mean, there's probably lots of things to Google these days, but the Sanjay Gupta's documentaries that he's done on the benefits of cannabis to so many people, that need it for medical purposes. It's just so well thought out, and he's of course very highly respected, and not some radical hippie out there. He's a doctor, and almost I think became our Surgeon General at one time. But he's I'm sure either on CNN or on just out on YouTube or something, his documentaries would be out there, and it just gives some really good, well thought out arguments and evidence-based medicine of how cannabis is helping even kids, and epilepsy being one of those areas that it can really help. One of the things I found was interesting about watching one of his documentaries was about the fact that you need a little bit of THC in with the CBD, for the CBD, which is one of the healing properties of cannabis, to be effective. But it doesn't mean, as I say, you don't need to get high.
Right.
It's just kind of like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
we call it the entourage effect.
The entourage effect.
There's CBD and there's THC in these products, but there's also other things like minerals and fats and lipids and stuff that's going to be good for you as well. CBD and THC is just the tip of the iceberg, but
there's also like an antifungal or something like that that I've heard of one of the
cannabinoids. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, so I didn't have to figure out how to pronounce it.
Yeah. There's a lot of different. There's new discoveries being made every day on cannabinoids, honestly, and figuring out the different sorts of ailments that those can help with. THCV, THCA, CBC, CBG. There's a lot of different ones, and our staff at Treehouse is educated on those. So if you want to have that conversation, we're here for you.
That's good to know.
And CBN for nighttime use.
Now, do you have products for pets?
We do. There's two different companies that carry it. There's a local company, Jade Nectar. They make a CBD product for pets, which will help with general anxiety and pain. Mm-hmm. And then there's also a company called Vet CBD. That's all they make is just tinctures for cats and dogs.
Yeah, I was watching some video on social media or something that it wasn't cannabis, but it was some kind of a supplement that they were giving to dogs, older dogs for arthritis. But cannabis is another option, for that.
Yeah, as well as anxiety, like if there's going to be a time where there's a lot of fireworks and your pet is very upset, or if you're moving and they have to go on a long drive, it's been proven to help them.
Versus I think our grand dog was prescribed Prozac.
Oh.
And so I'm thinking, if we're going to go down that path, let's get her off the Prozac and put her on some cannabis.
I think I bought some cannabis for her, some CBD.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know what you did with that, but we do have that. So if you have questions for Jenna, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we will be back. But please consider giving us a call at 831-265-5050. And she's with Treehouse Dispensary. Can hopefully answer questions or get back to you and let you know the answers to your questions. And so stay tuned. We'll be back after these commercial messages.
Time to eat and watch football. Chef Ben here from the Back Nine Grill and Bar at the Pasatiempo exit. Every football game, every Sunday, starting at 10 a.m. We have dollar wings, a breakfast sandwich, and beverage specials. Monday and Thursday night football as well. College ball all day Saturday. Other sports? Oh yeah, time to eat and watch football. Take the easy off Pasatiempo exit from 17. See you at the 9.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. So at Treehouse, we use it to build community. Hello, I'm Jenna from Treehouse Dispensary in SoCal. In addition to the finest cannabis products, Treehouse dispenses information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Though we aren't medical professionals, we do know how cannabis science can help you. Listen to Xavier.
Thank you, Jenna. For those suffering joint pain, Treehouse suggests trying a CBD THC topical like the Balance Salve from local Santa Cruz company, Jade Nectar. Simply apply the salve where you feel the pain, then enjoy the relief.
To learn how to use cannabis for the best effect, just ask us, your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive in SoCal. You must be 21, but no appointment is necessary, and the information is free. And for those who already know what they want, Treehouse has an online ordering option at ourtreehouse.io and drive-through pickup. We look forward to welcoming you to our Treehouse community.
Tired of restless nights? Your path to serenity starts here. Immerse yourself in the healing power of sound. Come to the Light and Sound Spa at 3335 Mission Drive behind Dominican Hospital. Biotuning custom soundtracks are finely tuned for you. Elevate your well-being through sound healing, deepen meditation, and melt stress away. Go to lightandsoundspas.com and reserve your session today. Sweet dreams await.
Hello and welcome back. This is Susan O'Connor Frazier here on Santa Cruz Voice, and we are in the last part of our Think Local First hour.
Going by oh so quickly.
It does. It really does. So many times you sit there and think, how can I possibly fill this hour? And next thing you know, we only have a couple minutes left. What's going on?
I think this particular guest is, Jenna, is just, there's lots of stuff we can go down a path and lots of things to discuss
yes.
in her business. But
So Jenna is a creative director and handles a lot of the marketing and social media and all kinds of things at Treehouse Dispensary, which is in SoCal, not too far from our studio on SoCal Avenue. Drive. One of those two things. It's if you go to the end of 41st and come to the T in SoCal, you make a left and it'll be on your right. Not too far from there. So Jenna, I wanted to, one of the things that, the idea of artists is really cool, but not totally unique. I may be unique in the dispensary business, but I know I go in to get my hair purpled and they have rotating artists, and a lot of times you see that in restaurants as well. But you really have this, Treehouse has this amazing kind of community involvement, and you can see some of the organizations that you're in current partnership on your website. So tell me about how that came about to begin with.
Well, Treehouse in its inception was always intended to be, rooted in community, to prove that a dispensary doesn't have to be this kind of other, that it is part of the community. And we really wanted to make sure that we were giving back to the community that we're a part of. And, as a legal cannabis business, that's a privilege. a huge privilege. And like we were talking about earlier, a lot of people are in prison for that still. So we really wanted to be intentional about fighting the effects of the war on drugs, especially the effects that have been disproportionately put on people of color. And to do that, instead of starting our own organization, our thought process was that we could support all of the organizations that are great and already do that in our community. So we started a program called Sowing Seeds for Community, and that's how it's through a simple roundup. We just ask if you want to round up your change, and that translates into almost $1,500 for these organizations over the course of 2 months. So when we select organizations, we're looking for folks that don't have a lot of funding and where that amount of money is really going to be important and impactful. So, we've partnered with almost, I think, 20 organizations over the last few years. And that ranges from Food Not Bombs to County Park Friends to Harm Reduction Coalition, the Diversity Center. Right now we're working with Black Surf Club. And those funds go towards their community programs. So that's a really tangible way in which we give back. And then
so it's not just cannabis related. I mean, you have this Last Prisoner project, which you're involved in, but the other organizations maybe are not necessarily associated with cannabis at all.
It's really just organizations that help people. I mean, that's we want to amplify their programs, their message, and support them in the small way that we can. And the other aspect of that is that our bud tenders, our staff, they get to have those conversations every day with every customer purely by saying, hey, do you want to round up your change for Black Surf Club? And somebody says, what's that? And then they can have that conversation.
Well, what is that?
Yeah.
I know. I actually heard of Black Surf Club from my stylist. She was telling me about this, and it was like I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's this wonderful organization that was started by a woman named Bella, and she, during the pandemic, kind of realized that there wasn't as much access to surfing as a sport for young people of color. There's a lot of barriers to surfing. It's expensive to buy a board, to have a wetsuit, all of that, and then also really intimidating to go out in the water. So over the years, she's developed this program and turned it into a nonprofit where they offer classes to kids and adults who want to learn how to surf. They help you source boards and wetsuits, and they do a lot of paddle outs to kind of in memoriam, but also just in celebration. So it's a surf club.
Well, that's because you don't see many black surfers, that's for sure.
So are in that particular situation, are the people participating coming from outside of the area? Because I don't think of Santa Cruz County as being very African American.
There is a large black population in our county. I think that's a pretty common misconception. So a lot of the people of color who are participating in these events they are locals. They live here.
See, this you win.
Every day, right?
Yeah, every day I learn something new in my job, and you win the prize today. They're in fact having a pop up on February 25th. I see. BlackSurfSantaCruz.org is their website. So who are some of the other organizations that you're supporting there?
We're going to be partnering again with Fuerza Santa Cruz, which is a Latinx organization, and they do soccer clubs for kids in the beach flats and in Watsonville. We do a couple of drives with them for holiday gifts for families that are either in South County or up here in the beach flats in Santa Cruz. And they also do scholarships for students who are looking to go to pursue higher education. So we work with them. We've done work with the Harm Reduction Coalition, who provide, safe access to folks experiencing addiction and give resources and help with safety there, and also educate the public on Narcan use, which is really important. We've partnered with Second Harvest, the food bank, which is very impactful to many folks in this county. We worked with Wings Advocacy recently as well. And we did an in-kind drive where we were able to collect hygiene products and, blankets and things like that. They work with people who are transitioning from experiencing homelessness into housing. So, that's great, but also, an empty house is, you want things to fill that. So Wings really helps facilitate the acquisition of those items for people.
So Second Harvest you think of Second Harvest as being kind of a larger organization, especially, and it was interesting. We've done work with them, and they were like the second food bank in the country.
Yeah.
And like the first in California, which blows my mind here in little old Santa Cruz County that we have something so. I mean, I don't know why it should blow my mind. We got so many creative and caring people in our community that it shouldn't be surprising. And I know that Willie, who is part of Second Harvest for the longest time until he retired, I think last year, he was actually part of the Black Panther movement that helped to feed kids up in Oakland, in the schools, the school lunch program. And so it shouldn't be surprising, but I tend to be surprised. So.
The great thing about Second Harvest, too, is that every dollar you donate translates into 4 meals, essentially. Right. So it is really impactful to be able to donate any money at all.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, like so many organizations that you're supporting, is that awareness is so important. That those of us that aren't, don't have food issues, that, you don't have trouble putting food on our table, don't realize how many people are, have this problem and, are not, either they live in food deserts or they're just, they don't have enough money.
And we live in one of the most expensive counties in the country. So we might not, not everybody sees it every day, but it's very present here.
And we are growing the food for the rest of the country. So it's just, this interesting dichotomy about that. Tell me some of the things that you've done with, like the Diversity Center. What kind of work have you done there?
Yeah, so we did some fundraising for them. We've also sponsored their gala, a little bit of their part of their gala. Their gala is amazing and huge, but contributed to that. And, all of that has gone towards their ability to offer free therapy to the LGBTQ plus community, which is just so amazing. Their center over on, it's off of Morrissey, kind of by the crepe place.
Okay.
Whatever that road is called. Sorry. But yeah, they're able to have like lovely events in there that just help people support in that community, support each other, and also help to support that community. So it's been awesome to be a part of that.
I know that they have a table over at the Museum of Art and History right now. And then last year we were at the Pride event at the Boardwalk, their inaugural Pride event, stopped by and talked to some of the people staffing the table there.
I'm curious, is Treehouse the only dispensary that's doing community feed?
As far as I'm aware, to this extent, yes. We do actually have 2 sister stores where we have local ownership in common. The Hook outlet, there's one in Capitola and there's one in Watsonville. And they partner with one of the organizations that we also partner with called WHAM, which is just kind of the original cannabis organization in this county. Valerie Corral started WHAM, which stands for Women and Men's Alliance for Medical Marijuana, and was started in the 90s. She was integral to Proposition 215, which made medical cannabis legal in 96, and is still running compassion programs, or a compassion program at Treehouse, where we see 70 medical patients a week with chronic or terminal illnesses and get them cannabis free of charge under Senate Bill 34. So the Hook outlet also partners with them they do a similar roundup thing that we do to raise funding for WHAM and the Alliance for Compassionate Access, which focuses on end-of-life care and support. So they're doing the work as well as us, which makes sense because we're sister stores. But other than that, I'm not aware of any other programs like the ones we have.
So if you're involved in a nonprofit, then you'd like to potentially be considered for your, sowing seeds for community program. What would I do?
Yeah, so on our website, there's information on emailing or who to email, but I would say email me directly, which is, my email is Jenna, JENNA, at ourtreehouse.io. That's OUR, treehouse.io.
And that's our treehouse.io is also just the website to get more information, not only on what you're doing in the community, but the artists that are there right now, and your menu of products, as well as your dope deals.
That helps us those are our deals and promotions that allow us to give more accessibly priced cannabis to everybody.
Right.
And then I did mention we do those discounts for veterans and students and teachers and medical patients daily.
So besides the First Friday events, are there other events that you guys participate in?
Yeah, so we do every third Sunday. We have a really deep discount day. It's called THCA Day, which stands for Treehouse Happy Customer Appreciation Day.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so every third Sunday, everything in the store is 20 to 30% off. So that's the best time to shop, especially if you're looking to kind of pay a little less and not have as big of an impact made by those taxes. And then we do a big 420 event every year, which is coming up. It is a Saturday this year.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
So that event at Treehouse is going to be from 1 to 7 p.m. So there will be food and art and cannabis education and music, and it should be a really good time.
So is it like, I know that on my birthday, April is my birthday month, and so it's my birthday month. You got to honor me all month. Does the celebration of 420 start anywhere before 420?
The month of April, we'll have a First Friday. We'll have a THCA Day, which will be on the 14th, so as not to interfere with 420. So there'll just be 3 events throughout the month, and you can keep an eye on our calendar on our Dope Deals page to see what other specials we have going on.
And I noticed you have a Super Bowl deal or special.
We do, yeah. We call it our sports ball bundle. So whether you're rooting for the Niners, the Chiefs, Taylor Swift, or you just want to have a good time on Sunday, we've got
Guaranteed.
a bundle. Yeah, we've got a bundle that you can come get from us.
So where did 420 come from anyway? I mean, I know that's the day, but I don't even know where the source of it was.
I think the story that most people hear is that there were some folks up in Berkeley that just happened to meet at 420 after their classes ended.
So it's a time on the clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can celebrate daily if you want.
So very cool. We haven't gotten in there yet. We'll have to take a look.
Yeah, we got to see if they have the products that you require, because
Yes.
it would be good to
support one of our
this.
Think Local First members.
Absolutely. And,
Thank you.
And supporting everything that they're doing
Yes,
in the community,
totally.
which is astounding, actually.
Thank you.
So we are coming up on the end of the hour. This is Jenna. Our guest today has been Jenna Gallant from Treehouse Dispensary, and the URL there is our treehouse.io. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just have one last thing. Something that some people might be aware of that's happening in our community is that we are trying to expand to have another shop that's going to be able to do similar community work over on the west side. And that shop is going to be in partnership with WHAM, which I mentioned earlier, and it will be another Hook outlet, similar to the one in Capitola and Watsonville. But there are some concerns in that community about the safety of cannabis and whether that's a good location. And while it's all above board and legal, we want to make sure that community is educated as well. So I just wanted to list off a couple of resources. So there's a website called safecannabis.net that I recommend everybody go to and read a little more about, how to the safety of cannabis, and also how it is medically useful, and kind of combat any of the misinformation that might be out there. And then the other thing that is happening is that you can keep an eye on Treehouse's website, but we're going to be doing a letter campaign for those that support this, that they can participate in that and send those into our representatives in Santa Cruz County. The location is going to be in formerly Emily's Bakery. So it would be centrally located for people on the west side who don't have, necessarily a local dispensary. That's right there.
Well, we are completely out of time, but that is on our recording. So thank you so much.
We were trying to figure out how to get a